Hey, this right here is an introduction of my soul. It's a spoken word piece that I wrote when I was incarcerated. It's called 𝗔𝗲𝗶𝘀, and it's going to speak for itself. And it asks questions, like in a general sense, and from a personal point of view as well. And, you know, once we play it at the end, I'll give you some more insight.
Okay.
Ready.
For 20 years, I've been trapped like a tadpole within a teardrop of a cyclops, whose eye project my bright eye of how my heart has become dry rot as a result of sleeping on a bedrock of mass incarceration, which are the incestuous injustices that are beyond historical precedent and beyond the minds of pedestrians who are shackled to a system that's molesting them, yet subconsciously they profess the best of it, when there's no way to embrace only a portion without taking the rest of it. Such monstrosities has been tweaked to a velocity that subdues the curiosity of what levels of salty pain are condensed within the teardrop of a cyclops, climbing the blue. Blues that are more vast than the skies of the deepest hues and deeper than a bruise of red, white, and blue on the faces of America. Mass hysteria is really a ploy to mask its interior of its false senses of being exceptional and superior, as she cries and sees her deepest blues in the mirror. But Lady Liberty, please, the blues you cry makes me bleed. Your blues is the police that causes me to plead. Don't shoot, I'm not resisting. It's only my cell phone, I can't breathe. So please, don't kill me in a traffic stop that's supposed to be routine, but oftentimes leaves me hanging in a jail cell or lying dead in the street. Dread and Scots, you still consider our black bodies a thing. So to you, America, I am a cyclops that deserve a death sentence in the 𝗓𝗲𝘀 without me doing a thing, but refusing to be beat black and blue. Because your biggest fear is that all the hate you rage against me will one day finally come back to you. And that's what will become of the tadpole trapped in a teardrop of a cyclops, climbing the blue, climbing the blue, climbing the blue, climbing the blue.
Wow. Okay. I feel like this is a prime reason why these creative bios are phenomenal, because that was incredible. Thank you so much for starting with that, Leon. Like, wow, what an introduction.
Hey, and you know, I want to let you know, and your viewers, that's the first time that was debuted, and I want to debut that on y'all show. It's
Thank you
not
so
even
much.
released yet. For me, that's my personal bio, like, of my soul and where I was at. You know, obviously I wrote that in prison. You know, at the time I was in prison 20 years. You know, I spent 25 in prison, and you know, the cyclops can be many things. It can be, you know, the people that's looking at you with a one-sided view, with a view that's riddled with that cyclops eye of implicit bias or outright racism. And when you were up under this view, like I was, I'm trapped in their teardrops because it's really pathetic and pitiful for people, you know, that have these type of shortcomings, you know, of their heart and integrity. And it has an effect on you. So the tadpole, which is me, when one part, which is me, or all people of color, or people that's discriminated against. In this context, it's for people of color, for Black people. And I'm up under this lens all the time of injustice. So what would become of the tadpole trapped in a teardrop of a cyclops? Should I rage out like Nat Turner? Should I be Huey P? Should I be Jonathan Jackson? Should I be America's nightmare or America's dream or savior? And you can look at that in the viewpoint of the collective as well. And now that I'm out, what became of the tadpole that was trapped in a teardrop of a cyclops? Oh, I'm here. And, you know, usually tadpoles turn into frogs, but I feel like I turned into a majestic dragonfly or something, you know, that, you know, despite my pain and things like that, that's something that our people have always had. And sometimes it was used against us. Turn the other cheek. Why are you spiritual? Oh, this is a huge strength. And I know I got it in my DNA, because you can't fight the good fight if you're mad. You got to use love. Right? When I got something to fight for, it was love. Truth never dies. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest truths in this universe is love. Knowing that that love is out there waiting on me and waiting for everybody is so abundant. It makes me and made me look at my situation different and look at the history of our people, not only in America, but worldwide, much differently. And I see the strength, particularly in our women. And I use love because my highest ideal of what God is, because I'm just a mortal person, is love. And so I looked out in the world, I said, love, where is love at? And where is it at in its most condensed and powerful essence? It's in the mother.
Thanks so much for that. That amazing bio and that amazing explanation. I feel like I wanted to ask about the tadpole teardrop cyclops thing, and I think you explained it super well. And I think this is a fantastic jumping off point.
So
Thank
much
you.
Metaphorical language that all of us relate to. The resilience, the love, and the being seen through this one-dimensional lens, yet we are so much greater than that. So thank you. I mean, so creative and brilliant.
Thank you.
So one of the things we want to talk to you about, we know that you have a love for music, and we're going to get into your story as well, which you've already tapped into a little bit. But tell us about your experience and your history with music. Is this something that came about while you were in prison? Or was it something that you always had kind of like a thing for, and it just kind of manifested itself even more while you were?
Well, you know, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. You know, my mother, she's from down south. So, and my father, you know, he's from Flint, Michigan. And I had this emergence of blues and Motown, you know, growing up. And, you know, obviously, you know, I'm a 76 baby born on the doorsteps of the bicentennial. And what really hit me was hip hop. When hip hop came, just the words of hip hop. But it was the music really like of the 70s, the 60s, you know, in its earliest form. So I was attracted to it, mainly because I was attracted to storytelling. Right? So I realized, you know, as time went on, that I'm a natural griot. You know, as a little kid, my first experiences with the art was at a daycare center. and it was one of the counselors there used to spend a lot of time with me. Her name was Hazel, and Hazel would tell me these stories, and I was just fascinated by these stories, and I wanted to tell my own stories. But I think hip hop gave me a platform to tell my story in such a way to a group of people that was receptive to my message. And that really made me feel empowered.
Yeah. I love it. So music has become a vehicle for you to express yourself, share your story, which is something that's always in you. But now we get to learn about your experience a little bit through that creative outlet. So I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you so you said that you wrote this song towards the tail end of your incarceration. Were you writing music throughout the whole time? How did writing music help you cope?
Oh yeah. Music writing, coming in 1998, going, to prison in Indiana. Hip hop was still there. People was beating on desks, and I was known, throughout the system, as an MC. My man LB, from Flint, he got bars, and I kept up like that. It was a way of coping, with the trauma. I didn't know about musical therapy at the time, but if you can rap and rage, sometimes that kept me from exploding on somebody else or expressing an emotion that was really negative.
Yeah.
It just stayed on paper, you know what I mean? Because I didn't made some dark stuff too, but going through it, especially in solitary confinement, it's like you can chant your own spell, right? Truth never dies.
That's powerful.
It's only rediscovered, man. Truth never dies. See, the real thing about that is a person who's on the verge of being broken. And so what happens is I reach back and I realized those Negro spirituals, what they were, and I'm a person that got to the Bible after being atheist. And I was like, and I seen that the creator said, sing me new songs. So I knew it was something powerful with the spoken word, even if you whisper it to yourself. And it really got me through, solitary confinement. But something special happened when I arrived in population, because I was in solitary from 2001 to 2011. Again, for something I didn't do, it was because of my case. But I survived it. I studied. I became more spiritual. And once I was released back into general population in the Indiana Reformatory, it was like a couple years later, I was able to perform. So I performed, I'm talking about with a straight mic, sound, rocking to like 300 people. And that was like, because I wasn't going to do it at first. So I wrote something for one of my comrades. And then he got transferred. So I was left like standing with the mic. I was like, shh. So when I did it, I wrote a song called The Son of Man. And I rocked it out. And the thing that was unique about the prison experience where I was at in Indiana, they allowed us to film our performances and services, and we played it on the institution channel. So I got that response right there. They was like, son of man, I can't even make it up. I was like, dang, you really like that? Like, I'm back, and it just made me just start writing more. But to see it play out on the institution TV, like when you in a cell house, everybody locked in their cells, and they like, wait, hold up. Man, LB finna come on the TV, man, wait, hold up. Let's listen, it better not be trash. And you get pause, you just can hear it like over the, so music has been very powerful. Not only music, but the spoken word, poetry, writing, they're one and the same in a sense. And I was able to really build those skills. I became a Toastmaster while I was inside. And I eventually became the president of my Toastmaster club. The guy.
What's a Toastmaster?
So Toastmasters is an international public speaking and leadership club. right? It's international, so we developed that while we were on the inside. I was a part of that group. We did it for 3 years. I was able to teach college students, criminal justice students,
Nice.
public speak. And I seen something that was phenomenal. It was 60 students. And by the time the end of their semester, they had to turn in their finals in a video of what they experienced with coming into prison. So for me, before I tell you the result, so for me, I was sitting thinking like, oh man, this person right here is going to be a prosecutor. This person is going to be a police officer, a social worker, right? Different children from different nationalities and ethnicities. It was so exciting for me because I was planting seeds, because at this point I know that words count. And at the end of it, when they did their videos, the professor, 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝐻 of IUPUI, she came to me, she said, Leon, this ain't never happened in my 30 years of doing work like this on the inside. I said, what? She said, out of 60 students, 56 did their report on you. You was that impactful. And I was like blown away. That was a real humbling moment for me, like, because I was in there, you know, for me, that was affirmation. I was like, man,
yes,
you know, and at the time I was going against a group of guys that didn't have the same principles that I had, equally or even more talented and smart than me, but our principles was different. And it was kind of like me against them. And I got the nickname Superman. They call me Superman. And it was another guy that stood out. They call him Batman. They say Batman really be trying to keep up with Superman, but he can't, you know. And in the end, you know, the truth shined through. And from that humble beginning or rehatching of my skills of speaking and impacting people, I really knew like, oh, I got to be like responsible for this voice, you know. And certain guys pulled up on me, like one of my comrades on the inside, Philip Stroud, who is still in right now. He's from South Bend, a phenomenal artist, but he's definitely in my top 3 of all time, you know, in prison, out of prison, in the industry, everything, you know, bro cold. But he pulled up on me one day after I got done speaking. He said, LB, because everybody called me LB, my initials, and Leon Benson, while I was on the inside. He was like, LB, bro, he said, you got the holy breath. You got the holy breath, bro. You got it. You got it. I'm talking about, you know, this guy got life and he got tears coming out of his eyes, like, bro. And I know his prowess as an artist and as a good brother. And I was like, man, you know, and it takes some time to kind of process that type of thing to get to this humility, because the humility come in when you realize that your gift ain't yours. It belongs to a higher power. I choose to say Yahweh, but we know it's bigger than words and terms. It's so, you know, huge. And
the way you just summed up the importance of humility was really, you know,
yeah, it is.
Talk about how humility doesn't serve us, especially as people of color. But the way that you just broke that down in terms like humility is like when you have the awareness that this isn't about you, that what you have to offer is so much bigger than you.
That you are just a vessel.
Exactly.
The vessel.
Yeah,
right.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's some powerful stuff. I feel like you have just dropped like so many truth bombs on us, especially thinking about like how words you said about the students you were planting seeds, right? And like these words are acting as seeds. And it seems like even when you were in solitary, these words were like seeds, right? They were like growing a future for yourself. And then that moment where you like where the kids did their presentation on you is, and then that other moment where you performed and then you could hear everybody like feeling it, right? Like it's like an arrival, right? Like all of these seeds kind of grew into this big forest that opened up into your future.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and one thing to look at, what I realized as a spiritual astronaut, a science of spirit, of energy, is true. When you already experienced what I didn't seen, I already didn't experienced it.
Mhm.
My thing is to bring the world to me. They don't know yet, but it's already there. Already done it. So when you can see it and when you can believe it, you can manifest it. And that's what I'm on right now, to manifest that same energy to the people out here who need it. And it's a slow process, but it's one that'll be worthwhile when all the plugs connect. Believe you me, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we know a little bit about your story already, based on what we're sharing in your bio. But we do want to open it up to really give the podcast community a better understanding of your experience, specifically about your wrongful conviction and your time in prison. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, back in 1998, I was living in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm from Flint, Michigan. You know, lived in Flint, Detroit, but I went down to Indianapolis, Indiana initially to work a professional painting job. I renovated a lot of homes, everything. I got laid off, so I did the typical thing that a lot of, you know, young Black youth do. You know, I started chasing, you know, fast money in the streets down in Indiana. Long story short, I became the so-called man in a particular area, in a near downtown area. And unfortunately, a young man was murdered on August 8th, 1998, in the wee hours of the night. At the time, I was in the building doing what I do. I was selling drugs, smoking weed, you know, me and several other individuals was there. You know, we heard the sounds, but unfortunately, like a lot of urban areas, you know, I was desensitized from the sound of violence and sirens. You know, we heard it for a minute because it sounded like it was outside the building. And, you know, once the coast was clear, we went back to what we was doing. It was none, what shot, this shot, that shot. I can't comprehend the shots. If you would have asked me 30 days later, there's shots everywhere, you know, in these areas. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, 7 days later, I was arrested for it. The gentleman that was killed, it was a 25-year-old Caucasian man by the name of Casey Shane. From the reports, it was said that Casey had been shot because of who he was. You know, he was a queer person. You know, in this area, it was a red light area. You know, I'm a heterosexual man, but I've been an ally for the LGBTQ community from day one. Shit, hey, they spend good money too. You know what I mean? So I was on that type of time back then, right? And but you know, even more, you know, I wasn't, you know, discriminatory, you know, towards them. Even though back then we used to drop the F-bomb, like, man, you acting like an F-bomb, you know, this and that. You know, we was a little, you know, not sensitive to the plight of other people, but not to the point that I hurt anybody, you know, for that. You know, people there drive by and they'd be like, hey, they'd whistle at you. You like, man, get the F on, man, get on up out of here, man. You know I don't mess around. But that's about it. But he was killed, you know, because of who he was, you know what I mean? And, you know, 7 days later, I was arrested. And this turned into a real live nightmare. I eventually was convicted. I was tried twice. The first trial was a hung jury, 7-5 my way. The first trial, and the second trial, I just totally got eradicated. I was really in in a real life legal lynching.
Mhm.
And it felt very bad. My family, the few that was there, you know, they equally, you know, was like just thrown under the bus. And so, you know, the main thing in here, it was an eyewitness, an alleged eyewitness that said they seen a dark male from 150 feet away at night. This person was loading a newspaper vending box, and it was a shooting that happened like 150 feet away from them at night. And they gave police a description. They said some typical stuff: male, black male, dark complected, and described this clothing. And I didn't fit the description. The clothing back in the day, you know, I'm from back in the day, you know, I was pellied out. I had on like a loud checkered pelly shirt, you know, some Air Max, and witnesses came and testified to that. But she picked me out of a photo array when I got arrested, and she came and identified me in the court. Even admitted to the jurors that I was a light-skinned African American male, but it was me, you know. It was me, like, you know. So they convicted me. Long story short, 25 years, hell of a struggle, you know. And I really this thing right here, the reason why I got to the point that is bigger than me, because I realized, you know, I saved myself, no doubt. I saved myself because I had to do that work in there. If I wasn't no good, nobody wouldn't have been no good. I kept throwing hope out there. I'm writing a letter. Well, I give you a letter, I might cry. I ain't gonna tell you that. I'm gonna uplift you and send that letter out. But I still, you know, got to salute, you know, all the support in one way or another that I got, you know, from the people on the inside, as well as people on the outside, strangers, you know, that helped me get through, you know, until, you know, I finally figured out my particular lesson. So what really happened in 2020, George Floyd happened. George Floyd, you know, everybody know George Floyd was choked out and murdered, you know, on video. And in the course of that happening, we had COVID that hit. Then after COVID, it started arguably like one of the biggest civil upheavals in this country that was multicultural. Women, men, children, white, black, brown. They were all together. They said, man, that was wrong, you know, and they was tearing it up, you know. And because of that, it precipitated different states, particularly Indiana, states like Indiana that are historically red states, conservative states. And it precipitated the Indianapolis or Marion County Prosecution Office to create a conviction integrity unit. So I'm going through the motions, doing what I'm doing. I'm pushing clemency. The clemency wasn't to get out of prison. They wasn't going to let me out of prison with me filing a clemency, but I was using it as a prelude to file a sentence modification, because at this point, I had exhausted all of my remedies. That means I didn't have no play in court. Only thing I had was an actual innocence petition to file in federal courts, and I was trying to figure it out. I was in my head. I'm like, man, I got to do this. And, you know, I'm playing with this for the last 2 years, but still, you know, trying to, you know, get a sentence modification at the same time. Whatever came first, I wanted freedom. Long story short, in the midst of me advocating for this clemency, I reached out to my support on social media through my sister, Valerie Beautiful. And she posted an advert where I was asking for letters of support for the clemency board. So she posted it on my petition page at change.org. And lo and behold, I got like 21 letters. I only knew 4 people. I'm like, well, but one of these fine people was an elder by the name of Shannon Coleman. She was from Philadelphia. She was a basketball mother. she wrote her a letter. I read this letter in the day room. I was going through my mail and I read it and I just bust out crying because I needed that love, you know, from a mother, from a Black mother. I felt like she got me. She was like, her thing was, in her letter to the judge on my behalf, she was like, Leon, you know, is innocent. I know about innocent people because I helped a man by the name of Anthony Wright in Philadelphia. Anthony Wright was convicted in the 90s of raping and murdering Shannon Coleman's great aunt. But Shannon advocated for him. She said something wasn't right about that case. She advocated for that brother. And DNA proved that he didn't do it. And it's a whole thing in Philadelphia right now, to this day, with the police that's involved. They going to jail for what they did to that brother. They had him for 27 years. So I seen that. I was like, wow. So we got the writing back and forth. And she was the one who showed me that the integrity unit was coming to Indianapolis by December of 2020. I reluctantly put in a questionnaire, and guess what? They took my case in April. The plot thickens. Had been interviewed by 𝗓𝗲𝗄𝘗. She's a renowned freedom fighter lawyer, originally from Philadelphia, but she had become a professor at the San Francisco School of Law, and she also was director at the Racial Justice Clinic in San Francisco as well. Wow. So Shannon contacted her. She heard about my case. You know, I had it already. She jumped on my case the next day, you know, after they received it as backup. And they done their thing. One other thing too, in this miracle that's starting from George Floyd, I want you to understand that starting from the sacrifice of George Floyd and landing on a person who had run out of shots in the court, so to speak. Like I ran out of shots. I'm like, man, I can't even get out of here. So from George Floyd all the way to meeting Shannon, meeting these wonderful people in San Francisco, in the Conviction Integrity Unit of Marion County, 𝗘𝗶𝘀, wonderful person. But, and I just have to say this because I don't want to leave nothing on the floor as funny, but as poignant as this. I said, who will be reviewing my petition? So my lawyer said, well, it's a judge in Marion County. Her name is 𝗓𝗫 Flowers. So in my mind, I was sitting there, to them, I was looking like this, like, okay. But in my mind, I was like, 𝗓𝗫? Well, that's an African American.
That's a sister. Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm like, how old is she? Is she 30? Is she some type of prodigy or something? Because I they had like 𝗓𝗫, you know, back then. But obviously it was, you know, this sister, she was about 3 years older than me. And, you know, she overlooked the case, you know, and she decided in my favor. And I salute her because 6 months later, she died. Right?
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying? You can't tell me, well, I ain't God's creation, right? And I'm telling you, that's insane. A miracle. I'm talking about this didn't supposed to happen. Yeah. I walked up out of that thing. Everything that's supposed to went right at the same time. Yeah. And I tell you, it's all about what's within. And that's what I'm going to share with the world. I'm going to platform it when the time is really, really ready. Right? I'm going to bring something special to the world, you know, on a bigger platform. But I feel so thankful. I even wrote a book called Letters of Gratitude. I am because we are, you know, I am, you know, because I sat in there, I ain't gonna lie, I thought I was Superman too. I was sitting in there like, man, I'm cold. They can't beat me in solitary. I'm teaching classes, I'm making curriculums, I'm an alchemist. And I had to come on down and be like, man, you a part of great people. You stand up with great people. And I say that not only with the people that help support me, but the DNA that runs through my veins.
Yeah.
Right? So
you stand You stand on the shoulders of giants because you are a giant yourself.
Oh, thank you for that. Hey, let me pipe it down. Look, the Most High, like, come on down, go. You know, but I think just thinking about those ancestors that we come from, that was very instrumental for me. Like, I'm like, wow, you know, I got some type of DNA. You know, I made a lot of choices too as well. You know, suffering is inevitable, but how you suffer is a choice. And that's the same thing with change. I can use that same proposition. Change is inevitable. Change will always happen. But to grow, you got to choose growth.
Mm.
And
Oh,
those are the things that sustain me. But I had to recognize that it was other people that helped me get where I was at one way or another. So I wrote that book. It's published. You can find it at Amazon, anywhere. And you know, it's a great book to everybody. It's like the book of life. Like, I caught everybody off guard with it. And you know, it was a turbulent thing. But I tell you, you know, even though I make light of the trauma, that was a traumatic experience.
so much.
And I'm still, you know, if you look at it like this, on a trauma chart, you know, historically, you know, we as people of color in this country, we are products of a trauma called the post-traumatic slave syndrome. And it's there, you know, it's a form of dang, I'm getting tongue tied.
PTSD. I got you.
Yeah. So it's definitely a strand of that on a wider level. And we keep being triggered by systems of racism, of discrimination, in every facet of this society. So I already was suffering from this, and I couldn't explain it as a young man at 19. No, I mean my whole life. But at 22, when I went into prison, and that's when I faced it. Like, oh man, this is real. Like, I need to wake up. But then in prison, you deal with a trauma as well. Like, my life is gone. I got 60 years. The court gave me 60 years. And I'm like, man, what am I going to get out? Am I tripping? It'll have you, you know, question yourself, like, did I do it? Was I tripping or something? Am I tripping? And then the solitary confinement, which is something else that was systematically put upon me due to the politics of my case. And of course, getting out. So it's all fun and everything, you getting out. But then you got to deal with the reality. I had to deal with the reality that I had been gone for 25 years.
Yeah.
The place I grew up wasn't there. People I knew, I didn't know them no more. It was different people. Many of them dead, some on drugs, others just moved on. And life don't stop for you. And that's something, you know, that I've been going through since I was exonerated March 9th, 2023. You know, I've been, you know, really going and trying to, you know, reacclimate, but it's a healing thing, right? It's a mental wellness thing, you know, it's a spiritual thing. And I'm adjusting every day. I'm you know, I got my fronts up, but you know, hey, I cry, you know, on the inside. I got survivor's guilt for all them brothers that I left behind. And it's real, you know. And the system, not only me, but our people. It's so many brothers and sisters that have been oppressed. See, my innocence is just at the end of a root problem that exists in this country. I just happen to be innocent. Many of us partake in crime. that's really not our crime. We partake in this because we've been conditioned. We've been colonized to have these ideas that's not our own, to do things that's against our self-interest. And I'm a product of that too. It just so happened I was innocent, absolutely innocent. But the system needs to be fixed at its root so we can change some of this fruit, you know?
Ooh. Oh my God, Leon. Listen, if I've learned nothing in our podcast so far, it's that you truly have the gift. That is one, you were one hell of a storyteller, my dude. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I feel like some of the things that I picked out of your story is the idea of like all of these amazing people kind of coming into your life at the right time, right? And you kind of using them as ladders in some ways, or them kind of like boosting you up one by one to help you get out. And then also I think we have to talk about it, right? George Floyd and the way that his sacrifice allowed so many other brothers and sisters like yourself to have the light of day, right? Or like have their cases come up, right? And do all that. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. One thing about what keeps me going is it's always two sides to something. It's how you want to choose to look at it. We got to deal with reality with what it is. One thing is I can't get back 25 years.
Yeah.
People can't get back 200 years of enslavement. But what we can do is use that particular pain, that experience, that's the root meaning of expert. We are experts when it comes to dealing with overcoming things and loving despite of the hate that was put in place to block and obscure our light. So I take these things and I feel like I got out at a great time in this moment. Because usually, like, if you guys go listen to Kendrick Lamar, they not like us, but not that particular song, right? I know the brother went up and I rock with him. But he got a song off his classic album, 𝗕𝗲𝗀𝘀𝘶. And it's a song, the last song called Mortal Men. And, Kendrick talk about when he went and seen the cell that Mandela was at, and he was doing this thing as an artist, like he want to save his people. And at the end, it was a talk with Tupac. And Kendrick, he asked Tupac, he said, Pac, what happened when I just want to just lay it all down? And Pac, it was pre-recorded. I mean, he was being awful. But one thing the young Tupac said that stuck with me, and I challenged him on that, he was challenging me. He said, usually when a black man turns 30 in this country, they don't have no fight in them because the fight has been kicked out of them, whether it's through prison, whether it's through poverty, whether it's through psychic
warfare,
bullying, when they seeing on TV, like, man, I ain't gonna be shot. I ain't finna, I'm shut up. And in a way, the young Tupac Shakur was right in a lot of ways, that you got people that suppress, not only the brothers, but the sisters too. And right now I'm 48, but I got so much energy, to speak the truth. Not no reactionary thing. We all can be reactionary and passionate sometimes, but to really think about, how I'm delivering this truth, how effective I can be with my actions, because speaking out don't always means a voice. It can be written, your action. And he was right. And I challenged Tupac for that, that whole thing, one of my hip hop heroes, I challenged that thinking that he threw out. And I want to be, and I will continue to be, a person that got a lot of passion, that want to get the truth out, that want to help the people, things like that. My mission statement is I will ensure that truth continues by exercising the principles of responsibility, dependability, and creativity.
Well, what I want to say is just thank you. Thank you for holding on. Thank you for having the courage to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it really helps me to put things in perspective, and hopefully all of us to put things in perspective, because so much of life we have a sense of entitlement. We believe it's supposed to go our way. We believe that it's supposed to go in the way that, you know, we envision or that we hope. But if we zoom out and we step back a little bit, we realize that for so many people, right, life has just not gone in any way fair. You know, you happen to be in the wrong place at the
wrong time,
right? And that was the experience that you had. I mean, even just thinking about what's happening in the world right now, so many people, you know, in Gaza, or, you know, in Congo, in Sudan. I mean, life isn't fair, right? And I think especially in Western society, especially in American, you know, society, we're sold these dreams that are so individualistic that we don't always remember that, like, this is not about us, right? Each one of us has a responsibility. We have, you know, a degree of ownership in understanding other people's experiences and making sure that we're able to amplify and create space, you know, for other people. And so for that reason, I just want to say thank you.
Hey, thank you.
I know that your life and your story and your willingness to hold on and push through, and even what you're doing now, right, is doing just that. It's shedding light on these injustices. It's opening up, you know, conversations. It's bringing awareness to other people's experiences and how life really isn't just fair. And we have to get out of our bubbles, and we have to understand that, right? We, you know, get frustrated over little things that don't go our way, and we feel like we've been done wrong. But like you said, 25 years of your life, you came
for something
back,
you didn't do.
you know, you came back to everything being different.
Right.
Nothing is the way it was when you left. You can't grieve that. You can't mourn that time forever. You have to understand. I think we all have to understand, and that's the message, that one of the biggest messages that I'm taking from you, among so many, you know, is to really put things in perspective and to remember that this is not about us.
Yeah. And it's not about like us as individuals, it's about us as a collective. It's about all of us.
I want to give y'all this perspective too as well. In that, so as I sit in that tomb and I burn a candle and I'm studying history, ancient history, everything I'm studying, I'm like, man, what I missed out on, I got to find, you know, this truth, and I'm studying. You realize that, you know, it is always bigger than you. You can have your fun, but in the proximity of practicality, we want to say, let's think about our kids. Let's think about those family members that's coming. Like, I've got a grandbaby, her name is 𝗘𝗶𝘁. That's Yah's creation, God's creation. So I think about her when I do these things. It's not for me. You know, I'm a plant the seeds of trees that create shade that I never enjoy, but it's for the next generation. And like you said, you know, people have bought into this individualistic thing, me, and you're not thinking about the next person. So when you look at it as a collective within your family, then your people, it gets even bigger. Let me give you some. All this is mine. All this is yours. Don't say when they go up to space, when we went to space, because it all comes from us.
Really?
That's us. So I got ownership. I got an entitlement for, you know, of the world. I'm on my James Baldwin, even for America. Like, America is mine. Like, what's wrong with you? My people bled for this. This is my stuff. Like, it's yours too, but it's more mine, though. I could be like that too. And when you have that type of ownership, not only, you know, of your destiny, but your family and your community, the world, you are treated different. You say, nah, man, don't poison that well, because people got to drink out of that.
Yeah.
It continues, right? We got to make sure truth continues. And that truth, man, is love and humanity. So I like that right now. So I done read all the classics of all my brothers, and I love them. I done came to that conclusion, you know, because at the end, everything, we the same people. So I just eliminate that falsehood when I can and correct and do what I do. But all this is ours. This universe is yours. All this is yours. You a part of it. But then you really don't have no ownership. You was born naked, and guess what?
You don't die naked.
That's it.